Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the Bulls draft, the Blackhawks new head coach, a little bit of Bears, probably a whole lot of White Sox and more. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford IceHogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford IceHogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Sure, the season is over, but that shouldn't stop you from heading on over to icehogs.com. Get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, sign up for season tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how have you been during this absolutely gorgeous week of summer?
Very good. I've enjoyed the weather to a T. It's been great. My buddy and I were at the White Sox game yesterday. My buddy's a big Sox fan. Shout out to Brad. He's a big fan of the show. He listens to our White Sox segments from time to time. So yeah, we went yesterday and, beautiful day for it. It was really nice to be out after work last week. I would work and then I'd go out for a nice walk in the evening, and it was always good for that. So you got to enjoy it. And it looks like the good weather is going to continue. So it certainly makes you feel better when you're in the sun like that. You physically and mentally feel better when the weather's like this. Though I will say the one day of rain was pretty welcome because our lawn and plants needed it.
Yeah, they desperately did. I'm going to the Cubs game tomorrow, so I'm sure it'll rain tomorrow.
Not supposed to.
You know what? Last time I went to a Cubs game, we checked the weather 15 minutes as we were leaving, and we were going 15 minutes to the game, and there was no rain. And we get there, and there's a torrential downpour and a tornado siren. So,
oh yeah, that was the game my dad and brother were at. Yep. I'm actually going to the game with my dad Thursday night.
Nice. But while we're on the White Sox, we might as well just jump in there.
Mm-hmm.
Man, listen, they just lost the series to the Orioles, and
at home.
And listen, I'm not going to make it sound even worse than it is, because this is not the same Orioles team that is 100 loss team. They actually have a better record than the White Sox right now, I believe.
I think they're tied in wins at this point. I think they both have like 34 wins, but I will give the Orioles credit. Like, to your point, they are not the Orioles we've known the last few years. They're not good yet, but they're improved. They're playing better. They got the number one prospect in baseball, Adley Rutschman, up. Trey Mancini looks really, really good. And they have some great outfielders on that team. I mean, how many extra base hits did they take away from the White Sox over the past week? It seems like at least 5.
Yeah, and they play good defense. They don't have a better record than the White Sox, but it's pretty darn close. So they are the doormat of the AL East, but that's just because that team has 4 powerhouses in it. The Orioles just really, when you're playing so many games against the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and the Rays, you're in trouble, and they're holding their own. But when you're the White Sox, you've eventually got to start winning some of these games.
Yeah, and it seems like to me they've been worse at home than they have been on the road, because I feel like you look at some of their road series, and outside of the one in Toronto, they've kind of hold their own. Yeah, they lost 2 or 3 to the Astros, but you only got your butt kicked in one of those games, and one game you actually dominated Justin Verlander, and the other you lost by 1 run. But you swept the Tigers, you swept the Red Sox way back, and it seems like they have been a better road team. It's just I mean, at home, like they've been miserable over the past month or so. Like I think they've only have like a handful of series wins at home. One of them was the Blue Jays series last week, which you won a really dramatic game. And you thought, okay, that could be a spark right there. And then you lose 4 in a row, which included the finale of the Blue Jays series and then the first 3 of the Orioles series. So, you got to win those games at home, especially. And where's the power?
That's what I was going to mention is this team is, I mean, we're almost halfway through the season. The White Sox have completed 71 out of 162 games. So roughly 44% of the season. They don't have a player with double-digit home runs.
And I get Eloy's been hurt. He's probably your biggest power hitter. And I know Luis Robert's been up and down with injuries, but he's played more than not. You would think Abreu would have 10 by now. You would think Robert, even with some of the time he's missed, would have 10 by now. You would think that if he was healthy, before he got hurt, you think Yasmani Grandal would have a few more. You would have hoped Yohan Moncada would have had a few, obviously not 10 because he hasn't played that much. He's been hurt, but you'd hope he'd have a few more than what he has. But I mean, overall, yeah, I mean, this team was supposed to mash home runs like crazy. And, if they get healthy again, maybe they will. But so far, we haven't seen it. And you're in a very hitter-friendly ballpark. I mean, the other team doesn't seem to have trouble hitting it out of the ballpark against them at guaranteed rate.
Would you like to play the home run leader game of this team?
Okay.
Do you know who has the most home runs on this team?
Is it something weird like Jake Berger?
Close. He is second. It is Jose Abreu.
Okay.
With
okay.
9.
Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah.
Do you know how many home runs Yasmani Grandal has?
Like 2?
He has 2. Do you know what player on the White Sox has exactly the same number of home runs as Yasmani Grandal?
Yohan Moncada?
No, it is not. Yohan Moncada has 3. There's one player who, ironically enough, has the exact same number of at-bats and the exact same number of home runs.
Gavin Sheets? No.
No, Gavin Sheets is way more than that.
I was going to say, yeah, it's not Gavin Sheets. I saw him hit a home run yesterday. Josh Harrison?
Nope.
Adam Engel? No, he
Nope.
hasn't played that much. Leury Garcia?
Yep.
Oh my God.
They each have 173 at-bats.
Wow.
They each have 2 home runs. Yasmani Grandal has less hits than Leury Garcia.
Wow. And what's up with him? We haven't heard anything about him. He's been hurt, but like we've heard nothing.
Yasmani Grandal this season is slashing 185, 294, 237 with a 531 OPS.
I mean, I feel like he's got to have been hurt this whole time, right? Like I feel like from going from a career high OPS last year to this, there's got to be something wrong, right? I mean, that's a pretty dramatic drop, just a drop.
That is. I mean, it's nice that he's got over 100 points higher on his OBP than his batting average. Leury Garcia does not. And
No.
that's what separates the two of them, where the traditional stats are really close batting average, at bats, home runs, hits. But Leury Garcia's on base percentage is 210 versus 294.
And Tony would bat him leadoff.
You know what's crazy? Leury Garcia, his slugging is 254. That's not even a good batting average. But I mean, you have so Jose Abreu has 9 home runs. Jake Berger has 8. Who Jake Berger has played significantly less games and has significantly less at bats than Jose Abreu. Luis Robert has 7. Adam Vaughn has 7. Tim Anderson and Gavin Sheets have 5. So, and Yohan Moncada has 3. Yohan Moncada, even if you extrapolated him to like 500 at bats, this is like a 15 home run season pace. That's not good enough.
I mean, wasn't that what he was at last year? Didn't he hit like 16 home runs last year?
Yohan Moncada did not do very well last year. Let me pull him up quick.
Well, I know the slash line was fine, but you needed more power from him. Like the on base was really good, but you didn't get the power you expected. So I think his on base percentage was like 370 something. I want to say.
Last year it was 263, 375, 412 with a they don't have the OPS now. And he was a 4.1 WAR.
That defense is really good.
Yeah.
That helps him a lot.
And he had 14 home runs.
14. I thought it was 16. Okay, close enough.
But you look at it 2019, and he had 25 home runs. Right.
I mean, that's what we thought we were getting, was in the mid upper 20s in home runs with him.
That's what the expectation is. And that was 25 home runs in 132 games.
Yeah, he was great. In 2019, he played like the superstar we thought he was going to be.
Yeah. With a 315 batting average, 367 on base percentage, 139 WRC plus. He was a plus offense and defense WAR. Like he was a good baseball player that year. And honestly, since he got COVID, he's just a different guy. And yeah, I don't know if they're related. I
don't know either.
Timing wise, just is not the same guy. And this year, the walk rate is down to 5% from the last 2 years was like 12 and 13 and a half. His K rate is up from last year. The BABIP was, I mean, prior to this year, I'm going to go backwards from 2021 to backwards. 350, 315, 406, 344, 325, 571. This year it's 222.
A lot of grounders into the right side from what I've seen. Just isn't lifting the ball.
Yeah. So I mean, when you look at the stats, he's not giving you the production you need at third base. You sign AJ Pollock as protection in the outfield, and he's been meh.
Played better recently, but yeah.
Yeah, he's had his ups and downs, but
yeah,
not awful. Tim Anderson is fantastic, but he's not a power hitter.
Right, he's a hitter.
Andrew Vaughn is fantastic.
I mean, we're looking at a superstar in Andrew Vaughn. I mean, that kid can hit. He's unbelievable at hitting.
Yeah, I mean, he's not like the biggest power guy, but just from, his size and contact, he's going to hit some home runs. You would love to see him be able to eventually get up to be a 30-something home run hitter, but he's just, Andrew Vaughn is a fantastic hitter. I mean, he's slashing 316, 367, 476 with an 843 OPS.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah, you'll take that any day of the week. The only reason his WAR is not as high is he's not a good defender.
Right.
Luis Robert is inconsistent, but you're good putting up a good season. Jake Berger has been giving you quite a bit. You hope to see him get more playing time.
Honestly, like him and Danny Mendick before he got hurt was one of the reasons they were staying afloat for a few weeks.
And Jose Abreu starting to pick things up a little bit. I mean,
it's kind of what he does every year, right?
Yeah. But I mean, his OPS is just shy of 800. Even if it's a down year, I mean, a 267, 365, 431 with a 796 OPS, you're not going to scoff at that. It's just that the power isn't there. And that's one of the huge differences from the past couple of years is they're just the number of home runs isn't there.
Right. And I mean, like you said, his overall numbers are very, very good. Like it's really hard to complain about it. You want to see a bit more of the home run ball. And, that could come back eventually. I think it can. I think it will. I'm not too worried about him. The only thing I'm worried about Luis Robert is, like with many other people, is health. We've seen the nagging injuries with him, but in terms of talent and production, I'm not too worried about him.
Yeah. So this team, they've really got to work to score runs. You in this league, I think home runs are extraordinarily important. You need to be able to manufacture runs too, but you've got to be able to put the ball in the stands, and that's a big downfall for the White Sox. But another part of it is you're like, okay, the White Sox home runs are down, and you look, and they're probably. Let me take a look here. Looking up the team hitting stats, I bet the White Sox got to be
in terms of homers.
Yeah, they've got to be around 20th.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Like, are you talking in all? You're talking in all of baseball, obviously, not just American League.
They're 25th in all of baseball.
Wow.
The Yankees have more than double the number of home runs that the White Sox have.
So, I mean, the Yankees are unreal. I'm just trying to think that the ones that are below them, the teams that are below them, we're probably talking what? The Pirates, the Orioles.
No, not the Pirates.
Not the Pirates.
Pirates are ahead of the Cubs.
Wow.
Who are ahead of the White Sox.
Huh.
I'll give you a hint. It's most of the rest of their division.
Of the White Sox division?
Yeah.
So with the Royals.
Yep.
The Tigers.
Yep.
Probably Cleveland. I mean, they're playing decently, but they're not really an offensive. They're more of a defensive pitching oriented.
So the teams below the White Sox are the Nationals, the Royals, the Guardians, the A's, and the Tigers.
Those all make sense.
And
those all make sense.
And really, other than the A's and the Tigers, they're all real close. 59, 59, 57, 54. The Yankees have triple the number of home runs that the Tigers have.
That team is unreal.
So, I mean, they have 59 home runs. Like, let's just say, hypothetically, you make them 15th in the league. Okay, so put them in the very bottom of the top half of baseball. Let's see, it's 78. So that's like another 19 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
That how many extra wins does that give them? Probably, I'm going to guess 4.
At least.
That puts them right back in this division race.
I mean, they're still kind of in the division race, but they would probably be tied or maybe even in first, dare I say.
Yeah, I mean, they would be at least in second.
Right.
Knocking on the Twins' door. So the number of home runs, and you say like, okay, well, what's going on here? And you're like, oh, well, you can't blame the manager for not hitting home runs. Well, when you're batting Lurie Garcia at the top of the order, Lurie Garcia is hitting a home run every like 90 at bats. So if you're giving him more at bats being at the top of the order, then of course, as a team, you are driving down the number of home run chances that your team has. Your best bet is stacking the top of the order with your best home run hitters, even if that's not your best, I guess, run maximization lineup. Putting your best home run hitters at the top, giving them more at bats is probably going to generate more power, more runs via the home run for this team. But that's not what you're doing. You're going with your stupid lefty-righty matchups.
Right. And I understand that injuries don't help. When you don't have, if you had Eloy Jimenez healthy, you'd have more home runs. I think if Luis Robert was healthier, he didn't have some of the nagging injuries, he'd have more home runs. But you needed guys like Yasmani Grandal to hit more when he was here. You wanted more from Yohan Moncada. You want more from Jose Abreu. He is getting hotter, so you might get more. But I mean, overall, you need to produce more home runs. And when you have a bottom of the order, with bottom or top of the order in some cases, when you got guys like Lurie Garcia or Reese McGuire or Josh Harris in the lineup, you're not getting power production from any of those guys.
But even Eloy, when he's there, his slugging percentage is on par with Yohan Moncada.
It is a small sample, though.
It's true. How many at bats does he have?
Because he got hurt in the first few weeks of the season.
Well, it's based on 36 at bats. Yeah,
it's not a lot.
I quickly was scanning across and I thought 146, but that was Adam Engel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a small sample size, but it's you need to get more home runs. I mean, period.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of the game. I think the two big missing things is home runs, and this is just two of the things. Home runs and the sloppy play. I mean, the ninth inning yesterday, Jose Abreu made two absolutely brutal errors that nearly cost them the game. I mean, luckily for them, they were able to wiggle out of it. But, you've seen way too many bad errors from this team over the years. And, especially this year too. And you need to see cleaner fielding.
You also need to see more consistency in these lineups a bit. I mean, tell
Tony that.
I want to slap Tony that. You bring up Lenyn Sosa. Okay, you bring him up Friday.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't play at all Friday. Then on Saturday, where does he bat? Leadoff. He doesn't do well in his leadoff role. So what do? You put him in Sunday batting ninth. He's a young hitter. Let the kid have some consistency in his order when you bring him up before you cast him back down. I mean, he's young.
You don't tell me what to do.
Rubble. Yeah. He's 22. He just turned 20. He's barely 22 years old. Speaking of which, we've talked before about quadruple A players. Those players that they're very good minor league players, but they can't seem to do well in the majors, and call them kind of quadruple A because they can't make that transition. honestly, is that becoming what AAA is? Because it seems like when you have somebody that you're hopeful for, you bring them right from AA to, it's becoming more common to just bring them straight from AA up to the majors.
It feels like AA. I'm not saying that's always the case. I know you're not either, but I feel like AA now is turning more and more into just the spot where we need to rehab our guys when they're hurt. Feels like that this year with all these injuries. But yeah, no, you're right. You are seeing guys, come up straight from AA. I mean, didn't Andrew Vaughn come straight up from AA?
I believe he did.
And then wasn't Christopher Morel one of those? Or he might have been in AAA for a little bit. I don't exactly remember. I wrote about Christopher Morel at the beginning of the season, but I think this is way back. But Starlin Castro, he came up through the system fairly quickly. And then Nico Horner came up from AA, but that was because they needed him. That was like an emergency basis.
Yeah, and the guys that they're pulling from, coming up from, usually from AAA, are not usually the highest of prospects. Like Cubs brought up Matt Swarmer from AAA, but that's not somebody that they're high on.
I mean, Killian is one exception.
Right. But it's it just seems more like, when I was younger, it was the standard, you get promoted and you didn't, and then it was, they pulled somebody from AAA and you didn't get pulled from AA to the majors. And now it's just, they'll pull guys up quick. Yeah, I'm looking. The AAA is Rubble Garcia, Nelson Maldonado, Greg Dykman.
Rubble is gone, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah, that they released him so he could go play in Japan.
Okay, I thought I saw he came back, but that's
came back this year, and now he's going to Japan. So he's gone now.
Poor Rubble.
I think it was his decision. So
yeah, but I don't know. It was just an observation. I should probably look and do some more research on where the top guys being pulled in are coming from, which level.
No, yeah, no, I mean, I get it. We've seen a lot of it. We've seen a number of guys do that.
Yeah, or they just do such short stints in AAA before they leapfrog up.
Right. And you might see that more frequently with position players that come up quicker. I feel like you see more pitchers get developed throughout the system. We saw Caleb Killian before he came up. He's playing in Iowa again. But a lot of the guys we mentioned that came from AA, they're position players.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Crow Armstrong, do you think he ever goes to AAA? Or do you think he gets pulled up from?
I think it depends. I mean, right now he's hurt, so, we'll see what happens there. But he's also got to, establish.
I'm not saying this year.
Well in double. I know. I'm just saying it's going to depend on how his development goes.
I would see him as a guy that just, when it's his time, he just goes from AA up to get stats.
Or they'll do the old Chris Bryant, keep him down for 2 weeks. Though they've changed the CBA, so.
But yeah, I mean, back to the White Sox. That's a team that should be doing so much better. And I'm not giving up on them, but at some point, like they need to have that spark that that propels them. Like they need to go on some sort of like 8-game winning streak to really boost them up. And I don't know where that spark comes from.
Well, I've said it once, I'll say it again. They pretty much control their destiny at this point because many of their remaining games are against the Twins and against Cleveland and against Detroit. I mean, they haven't played the Twins or Detroit at home yet. Those games right there, that's going to basically win or lose them the division. Because if they can win in the second half, that means they're beating a lot of division teams, and that will propel them to the top. But they got to do it. I mean, they're done with the Yankees. They're done with the Red Sox. They're done with the Rays. They have a series with the Angels. They're going to be done with them after that.
Yeah, but that's a tale of two teams. You know, you could either be facing the best team in baseball or the worst, and it's the same team.
Oh, with the Angels?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I could see the Sox winning 3 or 4. I could also see the Angels winning 3 or 4. You just don't know which team is going to show up.
I just, we're getting dangerously close. I know that the trade deadline is, not the official halfway point of the season. It's beyond that, but we're getting really close to being the midway point of the season.
Mm-hmm.
In about 2 weeks. So early July, we will be in the halfway point of the season. And we need to reevaluate where the White Sox are at and adjust our expectations, I guess, because this is another example of, we looked at the Cubs when they started that championship window. When they went on that run where they ended up losing to the Mets in the playoffs in 2015, you're like, okay, this is the opening of the window. And you honestly felt that was going to be a pretty long window with the youth of the team, where they were at. And it closed quickly. And then when the White Sox got to the beginning of their window, you're like, okay, the White Sox are a different team. They're built a little different, constructed a little differently. We expect them to have a longer window for a championship than the Cubs did. And it's not holding true.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of this core they have is still young. And, if you kind of change, let's say Tony La Russa next year says, you know what, I'm done. And you bring in a real manager and you get healthier, you could kind of open that window back up again. But, you got to get there first. I mean, right now, you're not thinking about next year or beyond. Right now, you're thinking about this year and this year only. And you're still very much in the thick of things because you play in a shit division. And a few game winning streaks can make a huge difference. And you're head to head against the Twins, you can win or lose a division right then and there. But, you got to do it. And you shouldn't want to be in this position. You shouldn't be in this position, period, at this point with this team. And yes, I understand. They're banged up as hell. They've had a ton of injuries. It's going to hurt them no matter what. It is not easy to play through those injuries, but, you're just seeing some really bad play. I mean, those first 3 games against the Orioles, injuries or not, you can't lose those types of games.
No, you can't. But something drastically has to change. And I'm not looking at, Aloy coming back is going to be the saving grace. I'm not going to look at, somebody coming back from injuries to just be like, oh, we're going to carry this team, because fundamentally they're just playing poorly individually. Baseball is a weird sport that you take a lot of games and you average out everything and you judge somebody by that average, but really it is a series of peaks and valleys and everything in between. And the effectiveness of your play is when you have those peaks and you're helping your team. If you hit well in games that, are blowouts either way, you're not being that helpful to your team. If you go 3 for 4 with a home run in a game that you won 12-1, you didn't really help the outcome of that game. You could have gone 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts and you still would have won. And the same, if you're blowing out, getting blown out and you're doing well, that's not beneficial to your team. The way this team is hitting is guys are not hitting in, and I know in advanced metrics, they'll tell you there's no such thing as clutch hitting, but this is a team full of people that don't hit in the clutch.
Yeah, they need to come up with some more big hits in situations. That's a real key to all this, is that you need your offense to consistently produce and come up in those big situations. That's, something that we've seen way too much up and down of. And, part of that is putting the ball in play or hitting the ball out of the ballpark. It's all the things, and they just need to do it more timely. And if you do that more in the second half, then you're going to win more games, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, they got to get their butts into gear. You got a tough road trip on the West Coast, but like I said, they've surprised us on the road a few times when they've been struggling at home. So, maybe they can win this series against the Angels, and maybe you can do something against the Giants, but they're just going to have to play a hell lot better than they did against the Orioles. Because, this is a team that just did win 2 or 3 from the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and the Blue Jays are a really good baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
But something fundamentally has to change, and I think part of it is they need to switch things up. I honestly think you move Moncada to second, Jake Berger to third, or I don't know, can Jake Berger play second base? Berger needs to be playing more. I don't think that he's great, but he's the hot hand. Gotta play him. Josh Harrison, Larry Garcia, those are guys that just need less at bats.
Yeah, I think everyone agrees with you there.
You just can't. You can't just keep playing those guys. Lennon Sosa, sorry, is not ready yet.
Garcia.
I'm reading Robel Garcia stats. So Lennon Sosa needs to percolate more in the minors, but you need to play the hot hands, not the stupid lefty righty matchup or playing your favorite guys. You've got to play the guys that are hitting well. You're not a good defensive ball club, so who cares? Who cares if you're playing, the best defensive guy? You're not a good defensive ball club anyway, for the most part. So just go out there and play who's going to get you the most hits. And I'm not writing this team off by any stretch, but it's starting to get, as the weeks go by, more and more concerning that they're not gaining any ground on 2 teams ahead of them.
Right.
Let alone the fact that, let's just say, that they do make the postseason. You're looking at them having to match up against the Astros or the Yankees, or the Red Sox / Blue Jays. Those are the teams that you would be facing even if you do make the playoffs. And those are teams that have the Blue Jays, not so much, but the Yankees, the Astros kick your ass. And, even if you do win because of your bad division, it's like the Cubs, the last few years of making playoffs of that run. They make the playoffs. but you knew that they couldn't make noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, a lot can happen between now and then, and obviously it could get hot at the right time. But yeah, right now the favorites in the AL have to be the Yankees or the Astros. Those have to be the two favorites at this point. But again, a lot can change until then. Sox could get hot, key guys could get hurt. I mean, like, I'm with you. Like, I just can't write them off just yet because of how much talent they have and the bad division and the long way there is to go. But you can't keep making excuses and just expecting everything will right itself until you actually see it. So, you could say that in April and even May, but we're approaching July and there's still a lot of problems that persist that just flat need to get better if they want to make any noise. Talent is there. I think the ambition by the players is there. Thus why I think it's still very possible they could make a postseason run. But, we're at the point where you're like, what? We can't talk anymore. We got to see it consistently.
Yeah. And if you look at wild card standings, it's Red Sox, Blue Jays, Rays, Guardians, and then White Sox, Rangers tied. But there was a moment this week where Steve Stone essentially took the White Sox fans to the woodshed and criticized them for being critical of this team, which is really weird because if you remember the twilight of Steve Stone being a broadcaster for the Cubs, he was extraordinarily critical of the Cubs.
Didn't Dusty Baker call the freaking booth from the dugout when he heard about the criticism?
Yeah. So what changed? Why is he now a team?
Gary Reinsdorf.
He's like a team.
Gary Reinsdorf. When you're a Reinsdorf employee, you gotta suck his teeth. They just, Reinsdorf's all about friendship and loyalty. And I've always said this. I feel like nobody carries water for their owner like Reinsdorf employees.
Yeah, it's frustrating because you know what? The White Sox fans aren't stupid. Like they see what's going on and they understand what's going on, and they're calling it like they see it. They
had World Series expectations, and I think any fan base that had World Series expectations and were sub 500 by the last week of June, they'd be frustrated too.
And they were lied to in the off season, and it's a couple of seasons in a row where White Sox fans have been like, "Hey, do X, Y, and Z in the off season to help make us better team," and the White Sox chose not to do it, thinking we're good enough. And it came back to bite them in the ass a couple of seasons in a row, is go out there and find that second baseman. No, we're good with what we have. We have Josh Harrison. We have Lurie Garcia. And, I've never had a problem with Lurie Garcia when he was utilized like he's meant to be utilized as a super utility guy. Oh, hey, you need somebody to play left field and then move to right field the next game and then play second and then play first. Like that's Lurie Garcia. And getting, a handful of at-bats a week. Okay, fine. But when he's playing every day, you see what a bad baseball player he is. Historically bad. But that's what you chose. And it's like you keep plugging holes with bubble gum instead of actually fixing the issue. And you're telling the fans, nope, you don't know what you're talking about. We're the experts. It's condescending. And then to say that the fans don't have the right to be critical, or
come on, that's ridiculous.
It's beyond ridiculous. It's one thing to be the carry water for the owner or toe the line for the team. It's another thing to take the fans to the woodshed for being correct. They're fans. It's what they do. That's their job, is to, cheer the team when they're doing good, be critical when they're not. That's what we're supposed to do. And that's White Sox fans do it probably better than any other fan base in the city. is they are the first ones to be critical of their team.
Well, and I mean, like I said, any other fan base, period, wouldn't be happy with what's happening. And I mean, especially since fans are already on edge after they brought in Tony La Russa and they were hoping for AJ Hinch 2 off seasons ago.
Yeah. And, that one just whenever you make multiple moves where all the baseball world goes, what the fuck? What are your fans supposed to think when baseball, people that write for baseball for a living and talk baseball for a living, they're like, I have no idea. I don't know what to tell you. This is, what are fans supposed to do? How are they supposed to accept it or understand it? So it's just, is Steve Stone needs to just chill the fuck out and just understand that fans are going to be upset and let them be upset because they're rightfully upset. This is ask any team fan base how important every season is when you're in a championship window, and they'll all tell you that every season means something.
Absolutely. You don't want to throw any away. You don't want to undermine any of them.
And we're getting dangerously close to throwing another one out the window.
Yeah, you don't want to waste this season. You need to get it together. Get healthy, get it together, win the division, get to the playoffs. You need to make some roster improvements. What are they going to do with the trade deadline is remain to be seen, but you got to make some improvements.
I feel the White Sox will make a move.
Yeah, I think so too. But I don't know how big, but they will.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a big splash. But I mean, also not to knock Rick Hahn, because I think he's handicapped in a lot of ways. He's handcuffed. But there's managers that are really good at tearing down and building up. And then there's general managers that are the ones that take you to that next level. And maybe Rick Hahn has a ceiling. He did a great job of stripping this team down to the studs, getting a ton in return, and drafting well and building this team up to this point. And I don't know if it's just bad luck or if it's being saddled with Jerry decisions or Jerry's budget, or if it's him just not being able to, because it's a different mindset to go in that trade deadline as a buyer than a seller. And going into the off season as big boy spenders than little boy spenders. And it does reflect on Rick Hahn.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a combination of everything, in my opinion.
Probably. You'd like to see he did a great job. You can't deny when he took over this team and went, all right, we're getting rid of guys and maximizing the return on player trades. He did great at all those fire sales. The return on Chris Sale, the return on the outfielder that they traded to
Adam Eaton.
Yeah, Adam Eaton, trading Quintana. Like, the returns were all great. The draft picks were good. And you would like to see what he can do given free reign. Like, take that budget higher, not be saddled with, stale milk as a manager. Let the guy have full free reign.
Yeah, that's got to be frustrating with all that combination of stuff.
And not having stupid injuries.
Yeah, that's some of that is just freak stuff out of your control.
But on the other side of town, sure, they just won a series against the hated Cardinals,
which was very fun.
Yeah, but They're still not a good team.
No, I mean, honestly, like talking about this team at this point is just kind of moot. I mean, everything, it's bad team rebuilding. They're going to sell at the deadline. I think what they're going to sell at the deadline is the expiring contracts in Wilson Contreras. So the 1 year guys, the guys you brought in, the David Robertsons. I wish we could trade Wade Miley right now because he's good, but he doesn't have value because he's been hurt. I mean, because what we've seen from him has been pretty good. The problem is that he's only pitched a little bit because of these injuries. And that has got to frustrate the hell out of Jed Hoyer because that was a potentially valuable asset you could have traded away. But, I think he's still going to be, if he's healthy, gets healthy before the deadline, he'll be dealt. You won't get much for it, but he'll be dealt. I think that, we talked about Wilson Contreras. I think he's as good as traded, unfortunately. You're absolutely going to trade David Robertson. You're going to trade, I don't know if Drew Smyly will be healthy, but if he does get healthy by then, you might flip him for whatever you can get. Again, another guy that would have potential value, but has been hurt. But yeah, I think those are the types of guys that are going to be traded. I don't think you're going to get enough justifiably for Kyle Hendricks. And, I've gone back and forth on the Hendricks opinion. You need somebody in there. You need somebody. And Kyle Hendricks would be what, like the 12th sought after starting pitcher? Is it really worth trading him away for peanuts?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Here's my thoughts on it. And it's fine. We differ. And I don't think nobody without a crystal ball has the right answer at this point. Because who knows? Maybe he has a resurgence and you're like, all right, phew, thank God we didn't get rid of him and sell him for peanuts. But it's kind of a multifold reason for me. One is if he plays decently for this next month, or what's the trade deadline?
End of July. So basically another month, like 3.5 weeks-ish, 4 weeks, whatever it is.
So yeah, we got another month. So if he pitches well in the next few starts that he has, maybe you could flip him. You take that money off the books because he's got what?
It's not a lot of money.
Not a ton of money, but you take that money off the books. You could use it in the off season for something else because you know that with the Ricketts, you're handcuffed by budget. But also is you want to change the whole perception of your rotation. You don't want any more soft tossers. You want to bring in hard throwers.
That's my whole point here is what are you going to get for a soft tosser? Who's going to pay you anything for a soft tosser?
I don't know, honestly. But the other factor I have in there is he's arguably one of the biggest fan favorites of the Cubs fans, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Even if he is not the same guy. And look, he pitched great in St. Louis the other night. And I think if maybe you start more games with Yan Gomes, you might see some better from him. I don't think he is the same guy no matter what, but he also might be better than what we've seen if he pitches more with Yan Gomes. Regardless of that, though, whether he's good or bad, wash, whatever, he'll always be a fan favorite of the Cubs. No doubt about it. No disagreement there.
Let's just say, what's his ERA right now?
It's like 4.7 something. It was lowered from 5 to the upper 4s after that St. Louis start. Yeah,
I was going to say it's pushing 5 last time I saw, or in the 5s. What if he just gets worse and he finishes out his career as a Cub, in Jake Arrieta territory, where you're just like, oh God, and
it might happen.
Do you want to see that? It's one thing when Jake Arrieta was just scraping along at the end with the Philadelphia Phillies because you're like, okay, I don't have to watch it. I just go with my memories of Jake Arrieta dominating for the Cubs. But, him going off and to pasture somewhere else, you can deal with that because you don't have to watch it. But if they stay here and you just watch that disintegration to being this guy, the Seabrook effect, at some point it just gets you muddy the waters of who they were and who they are and how that changes your perception.
I mean, in my opinion, his legacy's set in stone. I mean, the thing with Jake Arrieta is that was re-signed to a 1-year deal, and they signed him when he was already just completely washed. I mean, with Kyle Hendricks, he's under contract. He's got years of control, and I don't know exactly what teams are going to be offering him, but I just don't want to sell him for nothing. I don't. There's no reason to get his, in my opinion. If you're selling him to get his money off the books, then Tom Ricketts needs to fire Train Kenny and he needs to sell the team, because that's inexcusable. If your main goal is to just get his money off the books, that is a fucking embarrassment for the Chicago Cubs. If that is the sole reason, I will fucking throw a meat pie at Tom Ricketts' face.
I mean, it's 2 more years at average 15 per, so it's 14 and 16. So it's 30,
nothing. That's
30.
Nothing. You're the Chicago Cubs.
Is it nothing for a pitcher with a 5 ERA?
It's nothing. No matter who you are, the goddamn Chicago Cubs. They will. If you're going to tell me they're going to play goddamn Jason Hayward every day, but not pay a guy to give you a start every 5 days, then they are off their noodle.
Jason Hayward.
That's a whole. And frankly, I'm tired of talking about Jason Hayward.
Because it does
tired
nothing.
Of it. It does nothing.
They know where fans stand on this.
Right. They know the numbers speak for themselves, but nothing's going to happen.
But there's another case where is that guy helped us win a World Series, and now we're all just like, just put him in the van, ship him out of town. We're tired of him.
Well, I mean, he's got nothing. At least with Kyle Hendricks, he's overall not nearly the guy he once was, but at least he'll still give you that really good start every now and then. At least he'll give you something every now and then. He's not the same dude anymore. He's nowhere near where he once was, but at least he does bring some value every now and then. Jason Hayward brings nothing, and he is making a lot of money.
What would you think if the Cubs were to trade Jason Hayward?
I would say, who's the sucker?
You have to eat the whole entire contract.
Fine. Pay someone to just take him off the roster. I've been saying that all year. Go to Oakland. Say, hey, Oakland, here's Jason Hayward. You don't have to pay a dime for him. Just take him. And none of this is personal. I don't have nothing against the guy personally. And I mean, right now, it doesn't really matter. In terms of wins, it doesn't matter. But there is going to be that day where more of your young guys are going to be coming up, especially in the second half of the year. And you want room on that roster for those young guys to play. And you can't have Jason Hayward taking that opportunity away from them. We've already seen Hayward start over Velasquez. And Velasquez has had some nice at-bats when he does play.
Yeah, Jason Hayward starts way too much.
This isn't about Jason Hayward himself. This isn't. This is about an asset that is being used instead of other younger assets that we need to evaluate for the future. Jason Hayward, if he retired today and said, I'm going to stick around this organization, another job, great. I love his personality. He's a great guy, great leader. But when you are taking up a roster spot and you see guys like Nelson Velasquez being used sparingly, or not seeing Clint Frazier get the right number of at-bats, or any of those examples, that just can't happen. That just can't happen.
Yeah. I mean, slash line 197, 272, 270 with a 542 OPS.
What did we do to him? Why did he come to the Cubs and he just not hit? Remember how good he was in St. Louis?
I know. Remember how excited we all were when he signed with the Cubs?
Yes, we were thrilled.
Everybody's in trouble now. Can you imagine
look,
what a difference that this team would have been if Jason Hayward would have been the guy we thought we were signing?
Huge. Would have been. Imagine how good that 2016 team would have been.
Yeah, if we didn't have an anchor in right field.
I mean, the good thing with that is one, the poor hitting didn't matter in terms of wins. Two, he rallied the troops and helped get them that World Series in Game 7. I will always give him credit for that meeting. People could say it's overblown, it's cheesy, blah, blah, blah. I think they needed to regroup. I think it was essential that they regrouped, and Jason Hayward was the head of that. That's why I don't regret the signing quite as much as other people, because I think, hey, at least he signed here and they won a World Series. So that softened the blow a little bit. And, 2019, 2020, he had an OPS combined north of 800. So you had a few years of decent productivity. But, overall, I mean, the past 2 years have just been awful.
I'm just trying to picture is if he would have been the guy we thought, and when we had Nick Castellanos, that would have been a hell of a tandem there.
Yeah, one could dream, right?
I mean, we had it. It just
I mean, did the Cubs, if the Cubs F him up, and they had no one to blame but themselves.
How did they F him up? Like what did they do?
They definitely tinkered with this swing in 2016. Go back and watch Hayward from 2015 and then watch his Cub highlights. That swing is just not as fluid. Because if you look at when he was a Cardinal, that swing looked lightning quick. And his stance was, I'm not a hitting coach, but it felt like where his hands were with the bat, it was just different. I don't know. Something happened. Whatever it was, something happened.
I hate when hitting coaches are like, well, let's all have a philosophy. You know what? Because everybody's different. Why don't you maximize what everyone's good at rather than try to make everybody good at the one thing you want them to be good at? Like, let's improve our launch angles. Not everybody is a launch angle guy. If you launch angle Nick Madrigal, you're going to have dog shit because he's going to
have dog shit.
True, but you're going to have dog shit that is you step in a pair of shoes that have lots of crevices and little tiny grooves and waffle shapes under it, and the dog shit is embedded everywhere, and you need to find a little stick on the ground to dig the dog shit out of.
Or if you're 2018, it's bad chili. A bad chili dog.
But I don't know, just maximize what the player's good at. If something's working, you help tweak them a little bit to make it better, but you don't try to make, this player hit the same as this player because they all came up here doing what's worked for them.
Right. And shame on the Cubs if they completely screwed up Jason Hayward, because he was a hell of a ball player before he came here.
But one last thing I have to say, it's, I guess, not Cubs related anymore, but do you remember when Chris Bryant was drafted?
Mm-hmm.
Who was the guy the Cubs fans all wanted?
Mark Appel.
Mark Appel made his major league debut.
Hey, better late than never. Good for him.
So Mark Appel currently is in the major leagues and active in the major leagues. Chris Bryant is not
for a while.
And Chris Bryant is not.
He's still hurt, isn't he?
He is still hurt.
He was doing a rehab assignment, but I think there was a hiccup in that rehab assignment.
You know what? Honestly, as much as I love Chris Bryant and Javi Baez, I'm glad they're not Cubs anymore.
Nothing personal against Chris Bryant, but those injuries are piling up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back to when somebody posted this stat today, if you compare Chris Bryant and Patrick Wisdom since Patrick Wisdom came up, Patrick Wisdom has been better, more productive. Let me see if I could find that stat. I know it's floating around somewhere, but
like, again, it's nothing personal. I like the guy. I still have an autographed baseball on my desk.
We will always love him for the MVP and for the World Series. Okay, here it is. Okay, so since Patrick Wisdom came up with the Cubs last year, he's played 175 games. Chris Bryant has played in 118. Patrick Wisdom has a 3.2 WAR. Chris Bryant, 0.7. Patrick Wisdom, WRC plus, 115. Chris Bryant, 101. Slugging, Patrick Wisdom, 495. Chris Bryant, 415. Obviously a big difference in K rate. Patrick Wisdom, 38. Chris Bryant, 22. But here's the biggest one. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Chris Bryant, 15 home runs. Patrick Wisdom, 42.
And you want to know what the biggest difference? Patrick Wisdom's salary, what, 800,000? Chris Bryant, 20 million.
Yep.
Like that was my whole thought is Javi Baez. I knew that swing would not age well. Just wasn't going to age well. And Chris Bryant, those injuries, he's never recovered from that shoulder injury.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that would worry me the most. I mean, that you saw what that shoulder injury did to his power for a little while.
And, you could say, oh, well, you got rid of Schwarber and you got rid of Rizzo and you got rid of Baez and you got rid of Bryant. And Rizzo looks okay. But again, that productivity that he has at Yankee Stadium is not necessarily translating to Wrigley Field.
Well,
and that batting order
right.
that's protecting him is not the same batting order he would have if he came back to Chicago.
He's freaking playing with Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge. And Aaron Judge is an unbelievable monster. And you got DJ LeMahieu too in there. I mean, he's in the middle of probably the most feared lineup he's ever been a part of. Yeah, 2016 Cubs are really good, but my God, this Yankees team, it's unreal.
But honestly, how quick can that change because there's a lot of those guys have injury bugs. I mean, Rizzo's back could act up. Stanton missed how many seasons of baseball? Judge has bad injury issues. Like that team could change on a dime. I hate the Yankees, so I'm not rooting for anybody to get hurt, but man, I hope they lose. But that team is the last several seasons has been bit severely by the injury bug.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, let's see. So Rizzo is batting .221 with a .334 on base percentage, .823 OPS. He's got 19 home runs. So those home runs in the short porch are definitely helping his OPS look better than it would be otherwise. That .221 batting average is not fantastic.
I mean, he's doing fine for where. I mean, he fits. I think at the end of the day, he fits there. He fits there better than he would here. Correct. I don't want to cherry pick too much on what he's doing and what he's not doing. I just think that he clearly fits better at this point with the Yankees. He'd be the first one to tell you that's why he went back there. That's where he needs to be right now.
That and the Cubs didn't offer him a contract.
Well, I mean, in this if you're saying this offseason, yes, they did not. At least as far as we know. We offered to pay you in pumpkins and hot dogs.
We offered you tchotchkes.
You didn't take the tchotchkes. We'll even give you some pumpkins at Gallagher Way, and we'll let you sit in the lounge for free.
Honestly, I'm looking. Like, is a walk rate pretty steady? K rate up a tick. BABIP down significantly, but I don't know, not terribly. OBP down a little bit, but not as bad as I thought it would be after he left. I mean, the home runs are nice.
And it's got to be really nice to play. I mean, it seems like it'd be a blast playing on that team right now with how good they are.
Oh, I know. It just makes you feel better about everything you do. You're like, oh, I had a bad day, but we still won 17-3.
Essentially.
Bears, there's really nothing to talk about. It is so dead with the Bears that what's dominating Bears talk right now is that Justin Field was jogging on a treadmill.
Yeah, that's where we're at this point.
I was joking with like Lester Wilfong. He was like, "Oh, our quarterback is exercising." I was like, honestly, if that is the news that your star quarterback is making in between OTAs and training camp, that's you got to be happy about that, because usually the news during this time is not good. Anytime a player makes the news in this 4-week gap between OTAs and training camp, 4 or 5 weeks, anytime player makes news, it's not good. Baker Mayfield still fighting with the Browns. Is the Browns' other quarterback has how many more lawsuits and about to be suspended from the league for a long time. The Cubs have a player, the Bears have a player that got arrested on a gun charge.
Yeah.
While the police were responding to a possibility of a stolen car. Like those are the types of stories that lead, the Deebo Samuel wants to be traded. Like those are the stories that we typically get during this like 4, 5, 6 week period between OTAs and training camp. So Justin Fields doing some lifting in the weight room and some jogging on a treadmill, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's well put. Very well put.
So I'm just looking. The NFL is pushing for a year-long ban for Deshaun Watson. That's one story. Dan Snyder being subpoenaed by the House of Oversight Committee. Jimmy Garoppolo is given permission to seek trade with other teams. Brian Flores lawsuit continuing. Deebo Samuel wants to be traded. Ryan Fitzpatrick is retiring because he had bone necrosis from his injury last year and wants to be able to walk in retirement. Raiders facing workplace misconduct allegations.
Oh my.
Like those are the stories that are going on. So if that's what Bears Twitter is going to blow up about, is Justin Fields jogging on a treadmill, cool. I'll take it.
I remember when Mike Ditka would go on an exercise bike and eat a bowl of sausage and drink a beer.
Who do you remember when Mike Ditka threatened to fight a Bears reporter? I'm 53 years old, and you come. My office is on Wabash, or on Washington. You come down there, make an appointment, and I'll kick your ass.
Shut up.
Who you crapping?
And a beautiful segment on 670 The Score was born.
Yeah, who you crapping?
Who you crapping? Nothing of all the segments done on that radio station, nothing will ever beat Who You Crappin'. That is just legendary.
No, it won't. And it's sad that Who You Crappin' is dead.
I know. But you can't do it without Boris and Bernstein. Like that was just the perfect show for that segment. And even if you brought back Who You Crappin', like it just wouldn't be the same. It just flat wouldn't be the same.
Like Terry Boers drove me crazy. Like Dan Bernstein does too, but like I would always tune in to hear Who You Crappin'.
Oh, so funny. It was so funny.
Who you crapping?
Hey, buddy. Who you crapping?
All right. So do you want to talk basketball?
Yeah, we got some big Bulls news. The draft. We got a new first round pick.
We do. So I was sure something crazy was going to happen in that draft. And I watched the whole first round and nothing. And it was, I mean, listen, it's fun, but like, I don't know a ton of these players. I don't watch a lot of college basketball.
And this draft wasn't even that hyped up. Like, let's be real. This was not one of those drafts that had like the Zions or the, some of the really big names coming out.
Yeah. And it's, this draft was weird because between like foreign players and developmental league players and freshmen, I was like, I don't know a lot of these guys. And,
right.
But it was definitely fun to watch. I was just disappointed because, I start hearing Kevin Durant stories and I'm like, what if Kevin Durant becomes a Bull? And I bought into that hook, line, and sinker, not because I really thought it would happen, but the meatball sauce went into my brain and went, it could happen.
Oh no. Oh, you let yourself. Oh man, you started heating it up over the stove and everything.
It's like, in cartoons when like the smell of pie or something is wafting in the air and then the character like floats in the air being pulled by the flavor cloud. That was what the meatball sauce did to me. Like Kevin Durant, and I'm floating there going, Kevin Durant, what number is he gonna wear for the Bulls?
Your wife comes in, it's just like, oh God, not again.
I just like, all I could think about is which Bulls jersey am I gonna buy for Kevin Durant?
Oh my Lord.
Knowing full well my brain is like, dum-dum, you are not getting Kevin Durant. And the meatball sauce is like, shut up, brain. punched in the medulla oblongata.
And then the smell quickly went away and you fell hard on your living room floor.
Yeah, pretty much. So the Bulls ended up sticking. So I was like, okay, well then, that's not happening. Maybe they trade up a little bit because, I'm like, oh, if they can get a big man, that'll make me feel better because going into this, what do the Bulls need? Interior defense and 3-point shooting. Okay. All right. Well, maybe if they can get of that big man, because there's a big man that's probably going to be right in that range. And nope. So it was, the none of the big men fell to the Bulls, and that was disappointing. I was really hoping for Mark Williams.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were.
Sophomore center out of Duke, 7'1", big interior defender. It's like, that's the guy I wanted. And he went like 2 or 3 picks before the Bulls came. So I'm sitting there watching, and my wife comes in, and I'm like, God damn it. And because she's like, what? And I was like, no, not you. Like the guy I wanted the Bulls to draft got taken. But they didn't get a 3-point shooter. They didn't get an interior defender. And what they got was a guard. It's a guard/forward, Dalen Terry from Arizona. And, I looked at him and I just went, meh. He's not exciting. Right now, he's a guy that probably plays good defense and handles the ball okay, improving shooter. But I look at him as a guy that's going to help the Bulls going forward in the couple of years rather than helping the Bulls much now.
Yeah, I mean, you think of where you're picking. You're picking with the 18th pick in the draft. So you're not likely getting superstar talent or anything major. And you take what you get at that spot. And you look at the positive attributes he has. 7-foot wingspan. He's got some size. He plays good defense. Those are all things that we would love to see the Bulls have more of. Yeah, we're pretty focused on shooting. And let's be real. The shooting, especially 3-point shooting, really struggled last year. That didn't necessarily get better with this pick because you look at the offensive stats in terms of points scored and shooting, it's nothing that blows you away. I mean, the box scores don't necessarily blow you away, but he's a guy that will do some of the little things. Playmaker, help defend. Like I said, the 7-foot wingspan, from where you're picking and what you get, I feel fine about this. And I kind of feel like it's another project type, kind of like with Patrick Williams, 19 years old. He's, very, very young. And I think there's going to be a significant of things to work on with him, but I think he's got enough raw ability to at least make an impact at some level on this team going forward. Is it going to be anything major? No, but if he's that role player that helps fill a need, that gives you more defense, a little more size, can make plays, can take the ball away, can make the right passes, then, I will gladly take that. I'm just at that point right now, kind of like Big Dave has said on this show before. I'm just trusting the process. AK goes with this guy. He likes what he sees. He's a great evaluator of talent. All right, fine with me. Let's see what he does. I have a friend at work, coworker, shout out to Josh. He went to Arizona. He watched this kid and he's like, I think he's going to be better than some people think. He got to watch him. I knew nothing about him, but my buddy, he's seen him play. He knows a lot about him. And he says that he likes him. He thinks that he can be a baller for the Bulls. Again, nothing great, but I bet there's reason that this could be a good pick. So I'm going to leave that with I'm cool with it. I'm fine with it. Let's see how it works.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a few people who write basketball for a living, and I've heard things like Bulls fans will love him like they love Alex Caruso. He's a grinder. He's tough. And you know what? If he brings that same defensive energy and that, grind, that grittiness, Bulls fans are going to love him. If there's a stat that Chicago fans love, it's grittiness. We love that.
Oh yeah, this is the gritty capital of the world.
Yeah, like Philadelphia got Gritty the mascot, and I feel like that was stolen from us. Like we should have that should be like a shared mascot for all of Chicago sports, Gritty. But that's what it seems like we're getting. And if if he ends up developing a jump shot, we've got our 3-and-D wing. So I don't think it's a bad pick for where they stood. I still would have rather had the center, but I'm not going to poop on this pick. I just don't think it's going to be as big of an impact. It's going to be the second unit, keeping, or if Lonzo or Caruso gets hurt, being able to take some of those minutes and be able to, help. I mean, because a lot of the bad defense that we saddled Vooch with was because there was no front court defense, and
right.
passing lanes were clear. And Vooch is a guy that, in order to maximize his defense, needs help. So you saw he wasn't that bad when Caruso and Ball were both healthy.
It made a big difference.
Yeah, because the passing lanes were, they were fair game for the Bulls to steal the ball and tip passes. But once those two guys went down, it was just a free for all picking on Vucevic. So I think Dalen Terry at least adds to that.
And it asks you, it gives you this question too. Is this a safety net in case Lonzo Ball isn't right for the season, or B/B, is this kind of the way that we see Kobe White out?
No, I think there's just probably different guys. I mean, this is going to take minutes away from Derek Jones Jr. And players like that, Troy Brown, like those are the minutes that he's going to take away. I'm fingers crossed, think Lonzo Ball will be fine. I know we're getting the right words, but said in the wrong tone. Yeah, we expect him to be back. We're sending people out, checking on him. But
the way you mimics that doesn't exactly fill me with a lot of confidence.
That's kind of how they said it. Like, you're like, if you were to just take somebody teletyping it, you're like, we fully expect Lonzo Ball to be back and healthy. And you're like, that sounds good. But then you actually hear the way it's said, and you're like, I don't like the way he said it. I don't like the way that his brow is sweating while he's saying it.
Well,
but I think he'll be fine. Caruso will be fine. It's adding something to that second unit. Maybe Kobe does get forced out because, like, I don't know. This it's clear that he is not the guy that this organization wants, but the concern, I guess, would be, is he going to take minutes away from Ayo DeSumo, who you probably don't want to take minutes away from? He's a guy that you expect to help your team as he gets to be a better young basketball player.
Right.
So maybe they move Dalen Terry with Ayo DeSumo, and you start seeing maybe that does take away minutes from Kobe White.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it does, frankly, if Kobe White's even still on the roster.
It's a possibility. I mean, you heard he was the trade piece they were talking, is the 18th pick and Kobe White to move up.
Right. And I just don't think people were taking that.
Is Kobe White a bad basketball player? No. Is he a guy that has to improve on a few things? Yes. Like,
I mean, he'll go through stretches where he looks good, and then he'll go through stretches that just look awful.
I think he needs to find the right fit. And I don't think the Bulls are the fit for him the way this team is constructed. And it sucks because, when you're AK Mark Eversley, you're like, well, he's not like a terrible basketball player that we want to just jettison, but he's also not good enough to improve our team the way that we want this team to be built. You probably need to find the right fit for him. And maybe if the Bulls just jettison him, that he's able to pick the team that he goes to optimize to his playing ability.
Right. Yeah, we'll see what happens there.
And maybe it's a case of just having to play more consistent minutes and you see improvement. I don't know.
I kind of get the change of scenery vibes.
Yeah, he's not a bad basketball player. Just he doesn't play defense, and his shooting percentage needs to be better.
Well, and that's the thing. He's kind of like the Nick Madrigal of basketball. If he's not doing the one thing he's really good at, you're not going to get much.
Yeah, my goal for him was always to be on that second unit as the spark plug to score some points.
Right.
Even if you're not, hitting all of your shots, like being able to drive the hole, and score some points. That's what I always expected of him, but you always find him having to play more minutes than he otherwise should. And it was always the inappropriate moments. You're like, oh my God, he should not be with the starting unit because he needs the ball a lot. And you have multiple players on that starting unit that need the ball a lot. It's just not a good fit with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine.
Exactly.
Because those are three guys that need the basketball and that want the basketball, and only two of them should actually need the basketball.
Well said.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do. It sounds like Zach LaVine is going to come back. Sounds like they're going to throw poop loads of money at him.
I would not want them to throw that at him.
Literally
poop
loads.
Here you go, Zach. Here's our token of appreciation to you. Enjoy.
This is from the Cubs. This is what they give all their players.
Yeah, really. We got it from Gallagher Wee.
Yeah. So the Bulls can give him 5 years, $215 million. It sounds like they're probably going to give him something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you let Zach LaVine walk, then you got to replace him. And how do you do that?
That's the thing. It's I don't know. It's a tough one. Is he elite? No. Is he really darn good? Yes.
Yeah, he's all-star level, not superstar level, but all-star level at his best.
And those guys aren't easy to replace.
No, they're not. I mean, he might not play defense. He might not be the best ball handler, but Duke could score. Duke could score big time.
I don't know what made me think of this is I saw a picture of Larry Bird wearing a mesh trucker's hat, sitting in the front seat of a big rig with his arm hanging out the window like he's pumping his fist. And the caption was, imagine playing in the 80s in the NBA, rolling into Boston, knowing this dude's going to drop a 30-piece on you.
Larry Bird is basically, he could do whatever the hell he wants.
Larry Bird is fantastic. And it's funny because the man, the way he looked and the player he was just didn't fit. You're like, how does the guy that looks like this from French Lick, Indiana, this damn good at basketball?
I'll tell you one thing. He looks like a man who would be named Bird.
And, you probably never got to see the true Larry Bird experience.
No.
The man was the biggest trash talker ever.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I watched him once, just like he stole an inbounds pass, and instead of just dunking it, he took it out and then dropped a 3 and then immediately stole the next inbounds pass and dropped a 3 to take the lead. So in like a 3-second span, scored 6 points to take the lead and win the game. It was just like, the man was incredible. Watching him in college, I wasn't a lot, or I was, but I was not old enough to remember, but I saw the game later, on a repeat of, Magic Johnson on a real basketball team with other players versus Larry Bird and Indiana State University. And it was, back and forth slug match. You were like, Larry Bird carried, it was Larry Bird and like 4 random terrible basketball playing white dudes. And they were hanging with the best team in college basketball. Just Larry Bird was incredible.
And then he played Michael Jordan for a Big Mac. I love that commercial so much. It's like one of my, it aired like the year before I was born, but I will go on YouTube and rewatch it all the time.
Larry Bird. Yeah, Larry Bird was incredible. Yeah, here's a story from Doc Rivers. Bird got in the zone. He started calling the shots. He started saying off the glass, and that was the one game I think he tortured Dominique. He saw Dominique as this up and coming player, and he just tormented him mentally. He tortured all of us. He was calling shots off the glass. Who's next? Where do you want this one from? And he just made one after the other. Then when he got to about the 55th point, you knew something was special.
What a legend.
Yeah, one time he walked into the 3-point shooting contest. So he walks in, and it's the best 3-point shooters in all of basketball. And he walks in and goes, "Who's competing for second?" and then he proceeded to win.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, Larry Bird walks in and says, "I hope all you guys here are thinking about second place because I'm winning this." And he just started shooting and didn't miss.
The cockiness, but he always backed it up with winning.
And he never removed his warm-up jacket.
Oh, that's the best part. He's like, "Yep, I'm just going to do it casually. Not even going to be full suit. Keep that." I mean, those old warm-up jackets, the NBA, those were sharp looks. I would love to have a collection of those one day.
Yeah, the following year after he won it with his warm-up jacket on, Dale Ellis told the press that Larry Bird didn't have much to say this year. And Bird said, "There's no need to talk this time. We all know who's going to win this." And Craig Hodges, after he won the NBA 3-point shooting contest in a year that Larry Bird didn't play, the media asked Hodges if it was tainted because Bird hadn't participated. Craig Hodges said he knows where he can find me. And when they told Larry Bird what Craig Hodges had to say, he replied, "Yeah, I know where to find him, at the end of the Bulls bench." The guy was fantastic. Love me some Larry Bird.
Hell yeah.
I can't stand the Celtics, but I definitely own Larry Bird tall knee socks.
As you should.
I saw him at the store and I was like, need these.
Must have Larry Bird tall socks.
I think the last thing we have to talk about is the Chicago Blackhawks have a new head coach.
Yes, they do. And we heard the rumors that that was going to be the case with Luke Richardson. It's now official because they weren't going to announce it until after the Cup finals were over. Congratulations to Colorado. But I think if I were to just sum this hire up really quickly, I think this is the best that the Blackhawks could do because I wanted experience, whether it was head coach or assistant coach, I wanted experience coaching at the NHL level. They got that in Luke Richardson, and you darn well know that they weren't going to get one of the big names like the Barry Trotz level names or the Pete Laviolettes or the John Tortorellas. Boy, imagine that. They weren't going to come to a rebuilding team, and this team has many years to go before they're legit again. It is going to be a very long road ahead for this team. So you want to bring in a guy that could bring experience, that could help move this next phase forward. And I think you did as good as you could with Luke Richardson. He's been with Montreal. He was their interim coach last year. He's been with the Ottawa Senators organization, and he's been with the New York Islanders organization. He's been around. It's good.
I like that he was a long-time defenseman in this league.
Yes.
So it's, like, no, I'm not saying it's necessary to be, obviously it's not necessary to be a really good player to be a good coach. But I think if you're able to combine those where you have a good coaching resume and you have that experience of playing at a high level for a long time, I do think that goes, that helps you out a bit. I remember he played for the Flyers when I was first had moved to Philadelphia. So I did see him a fair amount. He's going to be a no bullshit kind of guy.
Which is nice.
Yeah. You hope he's able to improve the Blackhawks young defenseman. And, add some discipline to this team. But man, I didn't realize how long he played. He played over 1,400 regular season games.
Yeah, he was in the league for a while. I mean, he's got a ton of NHL experience as both a player and a coach. I mean, it's really nice to have.
Funny story. He played his first career NHL game at the old Chicago Stadium.
Look at that. It was meant to be.
And he called it, quote, probably the best sports experience I think anybody could have ever had. It was so loud from the first note of the national anthem. There were 21,000 people there screaming when they played the national anthem with the organ. My ears were ringing, and they always watched the rookies, so I just got chills. It was pretty exciting. We won the game, but to have that experience in my first NHL game, I don't know if you could have a better one.
Oh no, Sean is he's floating again. He smells the meatball sauce.
But no, it's like it's nice. I mean, he's kind of a soft-spoken guy, but he's very serious. I've heard stories about, pre-game prep and having your body physically ready to play. And that probably, guy that plays over 1,400 games in the NHL must be a guy that takes care of his body. You hope he passes that kind of wisdom and knowledge and down to the players.
Well, especially when you're going to have a bunch of young guys coming up, when you're going to be rebuilding into a new phase.
And if it's also meant to be, is his nickname was Luke Serious. So we'll have Luke Serious and Captain Serious.
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, where's he going? Or are you saying he's not going to be the captain?
No, I'm not saying he's not going to be the captain.
Where's he going?
I don't know. He clearly doesn't seem happy here anymore. Maybe he'll change his tone with a new head coach and maybe a clearer vision. But obviously there was a lot going on last year for worse and for even worse. But, I've said this on the show before. Even if he is here next year, how much longer is he going to be here?
next year. That's it.
Because I still think it's possible that his body just says, you know what, it's time to stop.
And it's a possibility.
We'll see, obviously. I mean, we have a whole off season ahead. And I think next show we can go into deeper what we think and what we can look at what's going to happen with this Hawks team. But, to briefly sum it up so far, we're already hearing a lot of rumors about Alex DeBrincat.
I keep weighing my thoughts about Alex DeBrincat.
As do I.
If you keep him here, the money you're going to have to pay him, you're sort of going to have to build around Alex DeBrincat. But if you trade him, the hope is that you get a draft pick where you can draft a guy that's kind of like Alex DeBrincat.
I mean, you don't want to trade one of the last few remaining guys that are going to be bringing you any sort of entertainment next year. There is that part of me that says, you know what? What if a team is willing to pay a haul for him? Some draft picks and maybe some young assets. And David says, you know what? We are tearing this thing the hell down and completely rebuilding it in my vision. Is that such a bad thought? Is it bad to say, you know what? We just want to build a new era, the new way, the way we think that they're going to win, even if we have to take this place to an even darker spot for a while?
I hear that. And honestly, like, that's one of those moves that makes or breaks you.
Right.
Because if that turns out to be a payoff, and let's say you get two really good players in return, the player you draft and then somebody that you got as a part of as a trade piece comes to fruition and they become really good for you at cost effective because of rookie wage deals, etc. And they are part of a team that wins you another Stanley Cup. Then that's a home run. That's one of those things that when they talk about your tenure as GM, they talk about that moment. But if you trade an Alex DeBrincat and you get, a draft pick that you mess up and they don't pan out, that's one of those things that they use to put on your eulogy when you're out.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge risk. It is a huge risk.
It's a safer bet to pay him. And, I don't know if Kyle Davidson, I don't know enough about him, is how he's been with the organization a while, but none of us know what he's going to do when he's the final say of hockey operations. So we don't know. We can only speculate. And I don't know how risk averse he is going to be.
Or what is his end game? What is his vision and plan? I mean, does he want to try to turn this around sooner than later? Is he looking at a multi-year rebuild? I mean, this is the thing about hockey. This is the thing, is we've seen plenty of teams rebuild like this, but we also understand that, the Blackhawks may be an original six team. And I think that after the Kane and Tays era, they've established more of a fan base than they would have, before that. So would people still come to the games? Yes. But if you're going to go on a multi-year rebuild where you're tanking, the Wirtz family knows that they're not going to be selling out every night.
No. I mean, they saw this year, they may have sold a lot of tickets, but a lot of those are corporate seats that they'll just sit empty. We've both gone to games and it is, there's been some empty seats.
Right. Is it better than, say, if the Florida Panthers were doing this? Far and away, yes. You could say that it would still be better than a number of teams in the United States in the NHL, but still, I mean, would you be getting Bill Wirtz era bad? No, but you would still probably be seeing, 5 to 8,000, maybe a little more, depending on the matchup and night. Not there. Especially as time goes on. Even last year, we saw a lot of empties. But, you could also say, for as bad as they were, and with everything that happened off the ice, it was still kind of surprising how many they drew. But the longer this would go on, and the bad teams, it'll weigh down even more. It's the Wirtz. They want to build a winner, but I'm sure they don't want to be tanking for the next 3+ years, because they know it's not the NFL. They know they don't have Wrigley Field, because in the NFL in Chicago, the Bears have been awful, but you know what? They're still the Bears. It's still the NFL,
and it's eight
know?
home games a year.
Right.
It's a lot easier to sell people to come because it's an event.
Right.
NFL is always an event because it's once a week your team plays.
Correct.
And it's a pretty short season. Baseball, you get people come, there's like, hey, it's going to Wrigley Field and it's an event. It's so many people just roll in there, be like, I'm in town. I want to see Wrigley Field. But hockey, you have to trudge out in this cold Chicago winter, and it's expensive for how many games there are. And to watch bad hockey, it's an electric place when the Blackhawks are good, and it's not nearly as fun when they're not good.
And look, sure, even if they're bad, Friday, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon games, sure, you'll sell tickets, but think about all those games that are on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. There's plenty of those.
Yep.
I mean, it's night and day. I went to a Friday night game against the Coyotes. You'd think there'd be nobody going. It ended up being pretty full. Then I went to a Tuesday night game against the Canucks, and it was like 10 minutes to puck drop, and the place was still half empty.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, if I'm just going to go out on a limb here, what if it was just terrible coaching, and competent coaching comes in here? Seth Jones plays a lot better. They bring in a veteran goalie who plays okay. And Taves returns to not like better than last year, but clearly nowhere near as good as his peak. Let's say he returns to how he looked just before, whatever the mystery illness was. And does that change the trajectory of what they look like and how they deal with things? Where, okay, hey, listen, we're above a 500 team, and suddenly this Seth Jones contract doesn't look like as big of an albatross because he's playing well.
I hear you, but I just think this current team lacks so much talent. Can you see maybe a few fundamental things be better with better coaching? Sure. Could you see maybe a bit more stability? Sure. But
I mean, if
this
you look,
is just not a good team.
But yeah, if they're all right, your power play and your penalty kill are middle of the road, both of them. How much of a better team does that make you?
Maybe a little.
The fact that you're like, where did they rank last year? NHL rank. Power.
I mean, while you're looking at that, I mean, here are the things to think about. Outside of DeBrincat and Kane right now, who do you rely on scoring a ton of goals for you?
Good question.
Who are they going to bring in as a goaltender? You don't have anything right now. How are you going to fix that defense? And here's the big problem. Here's the biggest problem of all of it. The farm system sucks.
That's true.
I don't mean to talk crap about the playoff Rockford Ice Hogs, but those are AHL players. They're solid AHL players, but outside of Jack Reichel, how many of those guys are going to be legit NHL players? And, I don't want to look anymore at, I still think Reichel's going to be a solid player, but a lot of those Stan Bowman era prospects that were supposed to be good that just haven't panned. I don't know. I feel like Kyle Davidson needs to bring in his own guys, draft his own guys. We need a new core of young assets. I also feel like another problem too is we need to see this organization just develop better and develop smarter. What were they doing with Jack Reichel last year? Why was he up and down between the NHL and Rockford? It seemed really odd the way they were handling that. And with Kirby Dach, I don't want to put everything on Kirby Dach because I think they completely botched his development.
The Kirby Dach, I feel bad for him because he was the symbol of either the Blackhawks having like resurgence or complete failure, and it was all riding on him. If he turned out to be the guy they hoped, suddenly the Blackhawks go from that fringe playoff team to a real playoff team. And if he stinks, that sets the clock back to when they're, how long before they're good.
It also doesn't help that the defenseman that everybody wanted went to Colorado. And what did Colorado just do?
Kicked everyone's ass.
Yeah.
They gave everybody an ass kicking.
Yeah. They kicked everyone's ass, and now they're drinking champagne out of Lord Stanley's cup.
Yeah. And I looked, the Blackhawks were in the bottom third in PK and power play.
It was quite putrid.
Yeah. So, if you improve that to meh instead of bleh, that improves you. Just having a better defensive scheme where guys are in position is going to do better. Having a better system for getting the puck into the into your own zone, like your entries, is going to be better. It's just like you watched, you're like, when you watch games, if you felt like it was a coin flip, whether they were going to be able to get the puck in the zone and actually, set up an offensive play before they turned it over. And, I just feel like better coaching is, I'm not saying going to make them good, just saying is, does it if we see what they look like with a better basic fundamental coaching system, there's a more competent, setup on offense, and their entries are better. You get some crisper passing because of fundamentals. Your guys are in position on defense. Does that change the way you view this team and how you plan to the long-term, outlook for this team? Because if you look at them and you're like, listen, they're not good, but they're not dreadful either. Does that make you go, okay, I actually now can visibly see a path to getting them to be a playoff team, versus right now it's all right, let's just blow it up and then start from scratch.
But where does all that come from? Where do you optimize what you have and turn it into a playoff team? How do you do that? You play in a division with Colorado, with the Blues, with Minnesota, with Nashville. You play in a stacked division.
Yeah, you do. I
think this team really lacks talent.
You hope that the salary cap catches up with all these teams.
Well, I do think Colorado it is going to, and but they've shown that they can develop pretty well. So I don't think it's
that's what the Blackhawks need to do. Is
right.
It needs to start in Rockford. Is their development program needs to be light years better.
And you need, it does, and you need to get those assets from somewhere.
And it can't all be talent based in Rockford. There's been guys where you're like, oh, hey, I'm watching them play against even like same level competition. Like you watch them play against other AHL players and you're like, they clearly have talent. And then it just goes, how does that happen? Like, what portion of this was it poor drafting and you didn't draft guys with enough talent? And what portion of it is you were shitty at developing those players?
I mean, it's a big part of it. I mean, you look at what we looked at like Ian Mitchell and some of those other guys over the past few years that were like, oh yeah, here's the next wave of Hawks. And they just never really panned out. I mean, look at the previous era of Hawks. I mean, Kane and Taves were superstars. Duncan Keith and Brett Seabrook were really good at what they did. I mean, probably the best assets to come out of Rockford was what, Shaw, Sod, and Crawford after that?
I mean, I would even go so far as to say that is Duncan Keith was a superstar.
Yeah,
I would call him a superstar.
Sure.
And Brent Seabrook was as solid of a defenseman and well respected around the league as you probably got. But yeah, there was just, things just, the talent development in Rockford needs to be a lot better. And here's the thing is Kyle Davidson is now the guy.
Mm-hmm.
He makes all hockey decisions.
Yes.
Rockford is now owned by the Blackhawks. They are not an affiliate. They own the Rockford Ice Hawks. They bought them outright. So they make all of the decisions about what happens there. So at this point now, Kyle Davidson is all draft picks are him. All player development is under him. Everything is under him. And we can fully judge him on how this works. And his feet need to be held to the fire right off the bat because he was hired as an in-house candidate. You judge a guy that's an external candidate differently because, hey, this was none of their mess. They're cleaning up. But Kyle Davidson has been at the party for a long time. He helped make part of the mess. And now it's fully his responsibility to clean up the mess.
I do like the fact that he seems like he's got a lot of differences from Stan Bowman. So let's hope that's a promising sign.
I mean, my only question is like, if he is so different from Stan, why weren't him and Stan fighting in the parking lot with fists when Stan was doing some of this dumb shit that he did?
Well, Stan was the guy. He was the head honcho.
I don't know, man. I probably would have still fought him in the parking lot.
I don't know.
Like, why are you giving up so much for this guy and then paying him so much money? Punch,
what are you doing?
Break your teeth, gritting him so hard. Like, but so everything, it is all the Kyle Davidson show at this point. He's got his head coach in there. It's going to be all his player development, all of his free agents, all of his decisions on what to do with Taves and Kane and DeBrincat. So it's all on him now. And there's no nothing to hide behind.
Nope. It's all in his hands now.
I will say that I hate the combination of the GM and head coach's names. Luke Richardson, Kyle Davidson.
Son.
Yeah, it's too much name.
I don't like all that name.
There's too much name. Less name, please. So I don't know. I just kind of want to see how things change. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to go to Rockford and see the differences. And especially now that their rival team just won the Calder Cup in the Chicago Wolves.
Yes, they did. And you want to talk about an organization that does the developing right? Look at the Hurricanes.
Yep. You know, what's funny is, you know, not only do the Hurricanes, they develop players but it's funny is there's got to be some sort of philosophy in there is winning at the AH level versus developing at the AH level, because clearly the teams that end up winning, they pad their team with some like veterans and guys that are whatever the NHL equivalent of a quadruple A player is, that, you know, they'll bring guys like that in that they know that are a little bit older, that aren't going to play in the NHL, but will continue on with the AHL to help them. You know, it's the teams that win bring in guys like that, either aging veterans or, you know, for the lack of a better word, mercenaries that are good AHL players that are never going to amount to anything in the NHL, that'll come to help them win. That you're not really developing those players. You're there to win at that level. So it's kind of funny when you see that balance and how to walk that line.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, as much as I would like to see the Ice Hogs win a Calder Cup, I'd much rather have them just churning out talent.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what you need for this organization.
Because rooting for the Chicago Wolves, it leaves me with a weird tingly feeling, like, because I'm like, well, they're like a hometown team, but they're a feeder organization for a team that I don't root for. That's a nemesis to the team I root for. You know, it's the
Hurricanes.
I guess they're not really that big of a rival, but you know what I'm saying is, it's a weird feeling because you go in there and you're like, oh, I'm rooting for them because they're the hometown team, even though it's a feeder organization for a team that I don't root for.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan my whole life. My dad and I have gone to so many games, and so, you know, always been a fan. So we were really happy when they won the Calder Cup, and at least it was a local team around here that did something.
Is there going to be anything for them?
Tomorrow at 5:30, there's going to be a rally at the Allstate. I'll try to make it. I'm coming home from work, so we'll see how the timing works.
Did you get to go to any of the finals games?
We went to game one, the one they lost. The one game they lost in heartbreaking fashion was, of course, the one we were at. Then they dominated the next 4 games.
And there you go. It's cool. It is cool to see. You know, it's cool that the team that knocked the Blackhawks team out was the one that won the Calder Cup.
Yeah, right.
I guess that's the way to do it. Is if, you know,
the Wolves were stupid good this year.
Yeah, if the team that beats you wins it, that makes you feel like you're second place, right?
Sure, let's go with that.
It's called mental gymnastics.
I think that's the point where you got to say, all right, Sean, time to go to bed.
On that note, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. It's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, and Shy Fan Pat 2 for Alex on Twitter, and AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all of the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan.
She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.